Next curve.
Welcome, everyone, to this Next Curve Rethink podcast episode where we break down the latest tech and industry events and happenings in the world of semiconductors and AI into the insights that matter. And I'm Leonard Lee, Executive Analyst at Next Curve. And in this Silicon Futures episode, we are going to be breaking down a number of months because we've been so busy this quarter, just attending all kinds of conferences, engaging with the industry to bring the insights that we're going to be channeling into this episode. I'm joined by the illustrious Karl Freund of Cambrian AI Research and also Jim McGregor of the infamous and the famous Tirius Research. Hey guys, how's it going? It's been a long time.
Good. How you doing?
Good. Oh, ready for a vacation.
I'm still freaking out that we're right around the corner from 2026. I'm like, oh my God.
I already published my predictions the other day on Forbes, so I'm almost done. I got two more papers to crank out this year, and I'm done.
Wow. So yeah, I only have one more event, which is Marvell next week. Are you Jim, you're not going, but are you going to be there, Karl, or are you going to skip out?
No,
okay.
Damien McGregor from Tirius Research will be there. So.
Okay. All right. Wonderful. But before we get started, please remember to like, share, react, and comment on this episode. And also subscribe here on YouTube and on Buzzsprout to listen to us on your favorite podcast platform. And remember, opinions and statements made by these two gentlemen right there
are correct.
are their own. So, and don't reflect.
You sound like Pete Hegseth on South Park. Remember to like.
I'm sorry. I had to finally get that in there.
Well, yeah. Okay. Just have to put that out there. I do invite you guys on and, Lord knows what you're going to say. So, but it's usually really good stuff. And so I think the audience is going to enjoy this update. So, hey, why don't we get started? I mean, so much has happened in the last 3 months. Yeah. And I think the last time we were all together, last time all three of us were together was at Snapdragon Tech Summit in Maui, right?
Yeah.
That was September, wasn't it?
Yes, September.
Oh my God.
I miss the beach. Miss the beach.
Yeah. So much has happened. I think one of the biggest news items is that Mario Morales, our good buddy, Mario Morales, who is the GM of the semiconductor group at is now at AMD, and he's
the vice president of strategy and partnerships at AMD.
Yeah, I think that's like the biggest news, don't you think?
Well, that is big news, but I wouldn't say that's the biggest news. I mean, let's face it, there is big news coming out, especially around AI in the data center, every single day. It is ridiculous how much. I mean, it's.
You think how much the competitive landscape has changed just in the last 3 months, 4 months? Just amazing.
Oh, it is amazing. I mean, there's new partnerships, new acquisitions, new investments, new silicon, new. It every time you turn around. I mean, I was amazed just being at Supercomputing 25 and the fact that everyone from the minute I walked in was talking about quantum. I'm like, guys.
Yeah.
You're not going to even be able to implement this for 5 years, but they were all talking about quantum.
Yeah,
I'm going to change my company name to Cambrian Quantum.
AI. Yeah, I think you have to. Geez, yeah.
Everything's quantum.
No, you got to be neuromorphic. You got to be one step ahead.
Yeah. I don't know if I want to be that far out. Neuromorphic's not going to happen in my career time, maybe my lifetime. I don't know.
Hey. Don't talk like that.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting. Yeah, interesting in that I think, there's only one computing technology that's even more challenging to understand than AI, and that's quantum, right? You literally have to have a physics degree, PhD to even begin to, crack the surface on understanding what that technology is. But I think there's already a ton of misconceptions. I hear all kinds of weird stuff from the media. So that's good for us, because that's plenty of opportunities for us.
We can help them sort it out.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, and the most common misconception, I think, is that quantum computing is going to eliminate all previous generations of computing, and that's absolutely incorrect.
No, it's an accelerator technology, and I keep telling people, I says, think of what the math coprocessor did initially for traditional computing. This is it on steroids.
Yeah,
that's good. It's good. What I tell people is a little different. I tell them, quantum is designed to only solve problems we cannot currently solve. Right? If you can solve it today, you would. And if you can't, hopefully quantum will.
Yeah.
So it's that kind of positions it as an augmentation technology, not a replacement technology.
Yeah.
But it is interesting, though. Quantum is still a ways off. Everyone kind of agrees on that, getting to a point where quantum is really useful in terms of error correction, error mitigation, as well as, just stable qubits and everything else.
Right.
We're looking at, and being able to scale up to something that's reasonable, which everyone seems to think a million qubits is kind of the benchmark.
That's kind of the target. Yeah.
We're looking at 2030 to 2032. However, what's amazing about it is, especially at SC25, is everyone's planning for it. So, I mean, this is the first time, I think, in the history of our industry that companies are planning ahead. So, I mean, yes, everyone was talking there about liquid cooling. They were talking about 800 volt DC power and 1500 volt DC power and optical networking, especially co-packaged optics. But they're even thinking beyond that, saying, listen, it's not just this. We have to continue densifying compute. We need to continue to improve AI and everything else. But we also have to know that we're going to have this other technology right down the road that has to be part of that data center. So the whole data center community is really thinking ahead for the first time, rather than thinking, how do we implement these older technologies?
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah. And, I think that's what a lot of these conferences have become. Like, I just got back from reInvent, and obviously a lot of generative AI as well as agentic AI. But I think one of the concerns that I have is the technology conversation investments are happening so rapidly and so massively. Can organizations digest the velocity of technologies and capabilities that would need to be adopted, right, in order to justify a lot of the investments that are going into data center technologies? And I think that perspective is becoming clearly lost.
Well, and that's a key point that IBM CEO made this week, was the fact that, his argument was, and it's not just his, several people have made this argument, especially in the investment community, that this level investment just isn't going to have the payback in the time, because you got to realize these systems have a very short lifespan, and it keeps getting shorter with new technology coming out every year. So are we going to be able to get that investment back in that short time frame with these? I mean, we've got just tons of capacity going in terms of these mega data centers, and I don't blame them. It's a good question, because our industry has a history of overshooting.
Yeah,
it's a good question, but I think Arvind may be missing a point here, which is that AI is going to become pervasive, which means every application you use will have AI in it. So there's a GPU or an ASIC somewhere along the line to help create that model and is helping to do inference on that model in order to provide that end user value. So it's not clear to me that we're dramatically overshooting that kind of capacity. If you're just talking about chatbots, Arvind's right. Right. But I don't think he's talking just about chatbots.
Yeah.
And I think that the pervasiveness of AI will shock many people. By the way, excuse my little eye problem here. I had an eye surgery this week. And,
really?
I couldn't recommend it strongly enough. If you're my age and don't think you have cataracts, go see your ophthalmologist. You'll
So
find that you do have
did you get the
cataracts.
bionic version? Can you see for
Yeah,
2 miles now?
I can see for 2 miles. I can do digital readouts on this lens. And yeah, I carry a little battery here
Yeah, a little and a puck for the compute.
and a puck.
Is it
Got the puck.
offloaded? Meta should call you.
Yeah.
Yeah, but the conversation has changed pretty dramatically on a number of fronts. Obviously, there's now this whole AI circular investment concern that surfaced. That's become big. I mean, think about it. 3 months ago, when it's almost 4 months ago when we last jumped on the podcast together, that was not the temperature in the room, right? That we weren't really talking about circular investments, or at least that wasn't in the foreground. Now it's it's an elephant in the room, right?
Well, and interesting side effect has materialized just in the last few weeks. As Google has changed their go-to-market strategy for TPUs, and there's no question they have. TPU v7 will be in all the neoclouds that have not taken money from NVIDIA, right? So don't expect it in CoreWeave, but I do expect it in others. And in
So
fact,
they are going to be selling the TPU to them.
Yeah, that's right. But they'll also be setting it up in clouds. Jim and I both saw at the Scale booth in supercomputing 2 weeks ago that it was funny. You walked up and it says Scale Google Cloud. So I asked the CEO, "What's up with Google Cloud?" You know what his response was? "I can't comment on that." So, you really can't comment. It's all over your booth. No, I can't comment on that. So my conclusion, nothing he said. He was totally upright. I like the guy a lot. He said, I really can't talk about that. That means there's something there, and it's on the booth, which means that probably next week, maybe at the AI Summit in New York, there will be many announcements. Probably. I'm almost certain there'll be one announcement, and that is that Google's going to be reselling TPUs to other cloud service providers. And that's a big shift. It's a big shift in
It is a huge
addressable market for Google and for Broadcom and Lumentum and their other suppliers. But it's a big shift in the competitive landscape. So my phone's ringing off the hook now. And the investors are all asking me, how bad is this going to hurt NVIDIA? My response is, it's not going to hurt their top line. It may hurt their bottom line, because we've already seen, or rumors are, they've had to provide some steep discounts, because the alternative is customers will say, look, I can save 30%. With just my TCO will drop by 30 to 40% compared to GB200 and GB300, respectively, if you don't give me a good discount. And so it's gonna impact their margins, I suspect. But I don't see it. Let me put it this way: NVIDIA will stay sold out all next year. Okay, so it's not going to change their total revenue.
Yeah.
Well, and let's make it clear. So Google hasn't announced that they're selling TPUs yet, but we believe that they will. And quite honestly, I had that question earlier this week, and I said, I wouldn't put it past them. They have sold TPU IP, especially for embedded applications. NXP's been actually using that for years. Matter of fact, they just made an NPU that you can license that Synaptics included in their LS2600. So I wouldn't be surprised if we see TPU technology in a broader perspective. And it kind of goes along the lines, and, obviously NVIDIA is not standing still. We're going to see an inference or decode type processor with Rubin CPX, trying to go after that same segment that really the TPU addresses.
Yeah. And then, but if we look at it also from a neocloud perspective, what we are seeing are a lot of the hyperscalers offload. And so if you look at because you don't want to hold the CapEx, what you mentioned earlier, these assets depreciate very quickly. Even the data centers, this whole argument that the data center has more longevity. I think that's a brittle argument, because the data centers themselves are becoming highly optimized. The technologies that are going in there for power, cooling are changing constantly. Mm-hmm. So the number of times you have to, the frequency of retrofit generation over generation, I think is going to be, it's going to be persistent, because, one of my takeaways out of OCP is that there is no real standard yet. So if you look at
well, especially with the hyperscalers all have their own rack designs. They all do their own level of customization, even if they're using a basic OCP solution. And let's face it, the hyperscalers underinvested in kind of the general purpose processors out there, because they all thought that their own silicon was going to be the silicon of choice.
Right. And so that makes it really interesting for the neoclouds that have a diversifying portfolio, right?
And quick to first token. I mean, they're putting capacity in place a lot quicker. Instead of building these mega data centers, they're adopting this modular approach that, companies like Flex and Vertiv and, Schneider and all these other guys, from the power to the IT pods, to be able to put capacity in place very, very quickly, and not having to have a customized or specialized data center for it.
Yeah.
It's interesting you mentioned Vertiv. I don't know about you, Jim, but I was blown away by Vertiv's booth at Supercomputing.
Yeah.
In fact, I don't recall them ever being at Supercomputing before, although I did miss last year. You walk through this hallway, and it's all of these tubes carrying hot and cold water back and forth. And then they have a beautiful 3D plexiglass model.
Oh, I love that 3D model.
Wasn't it? I captured it on video. Haven't figured out what to do with it yet. But Vertiv is definitely on fire. The other thing is, everybody from Schneider to Vertiv to Mitsubishi, wherever you go, they're showing big honking mechanical parts and pumps that you wouldn't expect to see at supercomputing. But that's where a lot of the action's gone. I would put a little footnote on your comments, Leonard, about the longevity. It's interesting that NVIDIA saw that coming, and they're going to stay within the same rack at power and roughly power and cooling requirements for 3 generations, right? Blackwell Ultra, and Rubin. It's not until Rubin Ultra where they're going to have to do a change. So while they are changing rapidly, it's about 1/3 the pace of silicon.
Right, but it's not standardized. It is, but silicon, definitely moving a lot faster. Maybe at a system level, slightly slower, but it's still an accelerated pace, right? It's not like traditional data center networking, but that's where I think that whole argument that somehow these systems have more longevity falls flat on its face, because it's not about, useful life is not just about how long you decide to have it in service. It's about profitable service, right?
Exactly.
And that is the thing that that I think right now is a point of confusion. But I do want to note, one of the things that Matt Garman mentioned in his keynote, actually it was during the Q&A, because the topic of depreciation and useful life came up. AWS has proactively reduced the useful life for the AI infrastructure, right? So whether it's the chips or the systems or the networking, they brought it in, not knowing, as he qualified, not knowing what the economics are going to be. But when you look at the evidence, it's going to be much more accelerated than that. You're probably looking at 2 years, not 6 years, or some are even suggesting 10 years. I think that just is nonsensical.
Well, and I don't think that I'm not even sure that 3 generations is going to be feasible, quite honestly, because it's not just the accelerator and the processor you have to worry about in terms of a power perspective. You're adding more memory, you're adding higher speed memory, you're adding higher speed networking and everything else. So, I mean, yeah, if you plan for the 800 volts and you already have the cooling, but it's still going to be a challenge. Matter of fact, they've already had to go to. Now, NVIDIA says they're going to stick with copper as long as they possibly can within the rack. But they've already had to move from top of rack switches to the middle of rack because you can't span a whole rack anymore at the speeds that they're running with copper. And so I'm kind of with the networking guys that we're going to see that shift to copper and co-packaged optics a lot quicker than I think some of the naysayers are saying out there.
Absolutely right, Jim. Google TPU only uses copper in connecting the 4x4x4 cube.
Mm-hmm.
Once you go outside of that 16-way construct, it's all optical. And so you have companies like Momentum benefiting from that and helping
Momentum, Coherent, all these companies.
Yeah. I guess you saw that. I forgot the name of it. Darn, Celestial optical platforms. They were just acquired.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I don't know if they were shipping product yet. I guess.
Marvell, right? Tomorrow.
Marvell bought them.
Next week, we're going to hear a boatload about that. Are you sure you
sure.
don't want to show up? I have a funny feeling Jim's going to pop in.
No, I'm not traveling between the holidays. I'm done for the year.
Is it in Scottsdale again?
No, it's in the Bay Area.
Bay Area.
Oh, okay.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. So, hey, you know what? We're talking about AI infrastructure quite a bit, but I want to flip our discussion toward manufacturing really quickly. And
hold on, I have to change my hats. No, just kidding. Go ahead.
Your hair. Let's talk about Intel really quickly. So there's some news that came out of Intel. 18A, we have Panther Lake. That's looks like we're going to start to see some action at CES 2025 or 26, which is just a couple of weeks or 3 weeks away.
Karl, I think he's suffering from dementia. Should we check him out for that?
Yeah.
He doesn't know what year it is. No, just kidding.
Yeah, I don't. Any thoughts?
No, but no, you're right. We're going to see, obviously, we've already had the ITT Tech Tour, which was Intel's deep dive into Panther Lake and 18A and the future of 14A. It's going to be interesting. And I've gotten the fab tour of the new Fab 52, which is going to be doing that manufacturing down in Chandler. Fab 62 is already built, but it's just an empty shell at this point in time. So they do have the capacity to expand. Matter of fact, they still have capacity to expand in Fab 52. Reaching that point both with their server products and with their PC products for 18A manufacturing is huge. Now they have the most advanced manufacturing process in the world once again. They didn't unfortunately capture or haven't captured that we know of at this point in time any external customers for 18A. Yeah. But you have to remember that this is Intel Foundry is a different beast now. So instead of going from process node to process node, these process nodes are going to have a 10-year or longer life cycle. So they missed that design point for a lot of the key products out there that wanted 18A. They missed that by not getting their PDK lockdown, stuff like that. But as some of those other products, are moving down their line as everyone else is on the bleeding edge is going to 14A, some of those older products are going to need that 18A. So they'll get some of that. And they've got significant interest in 14A. So we'll see how that pans out. And 14A is going to be on the same product lines and process lines that they have for 18A.
So did they make any comment about high NA? Are they going to make that transition? Or
right now, high NA at this point is still optional. They have indicated that just using the high NA equipment, they've seen significant benefits. So there may be high NA kind of integrated, but it's not what I wouldn't call it's not a hardcore switch that they've put on that says we're going from EUV to high NA starting with 14A.
Okay.
I think they're going to start just integrating it into the process slowly. But they already have several systems. The first systems from ASML and they have been using them, and they've seen significant benefits, cost benefits actually from using high NA.
No. Okay. Cool. Yeah. Carl, anything? Any reaction?
No, I just
happy.
let Jim handle all the manufacturing stuff.
just happy that 18A looks like it's coming along. Yeah, I think that's pretty exciting. The other thing I thought was pretty cool, the next group, there was talk that they were gonna, spin out the next group, and looks like they're gonna keep them, right? And so that was like a thing that kind of bounced around the news cycle for a little bit. And I think yesterday there was a bit of media confirmation that Next is going to stick around, which I think is smart, because I thought it was a little weird that they would get rid of that group, especially as we're looking forward toward 6G. Intel's been a pioneer in bringing about virtual RAN as well as a cloud RAN. Companies like, Ericsson in particular have banked heavily on Intel. So it's good to see that Next will still be anchored there, and that the non-China ecosystem for mobile wireless is going to be intact, which I think is important, although NVIDIA obviously is making a heavy push of their version of AI RAN for 6G. But, in the near term, I think,
And just real quick, let's not get off manufacturing just too quickly, because there's other announcements you have to keep. TSMC is bringing up 2 fabs in Chandler, Arizona. Amcor is building new packaging facilities, and they're going to be supporting both Intel and TSMC, and they're actually working with Intel on their advanced packaging. So there is a lot of capacity going in place all at one time, all in one location, or what we call the Silicon Desert. So TSMC seems to be on track. Amcor seems to be on track. Intel's on track. It's an impressive time down there.
Also, maybe a little side note, but IBM is moving their quantum chip wafer production to 300 millimeter up in northern New York, and that's capable of two nanometer fab lines as well. So we're starting to see the beginning of a U.S. based manufacturing capacity. Question for you though, Jim: If the world were to come to an end, which means Taiwan's blockaded or something along those lines,
do you know something I don't know, Carl?
No, I'm just speculating here. If that were to happen, how long would it take companies like NVIDIA and AMD to shift to Intel manufacturing?
Well, the fact that you'd have the manufacturing itself, plus you'd have to have you'd have the initial runs and everything else. You're talking probably 18 months. You may be able to shorten that down to a year, but that's once again actually getting the process moved and actually running the test wafers and getting production quality products out the door. It's not something that's quick. The bigger challenge though would even be the rest of the ecosystem, the rest of the value chain. We don't have a lot of back-end assembly and test in the U.S. Matter of fact, Intel's got their facility in out by 11X in Rio Rancho. Other than that, vast majority of it's offshoring in places like Malaysia and Thailand and stuff like that. So, having these facilities by Amcor, here, as well as TSMC wanting to build a facility for back-end assembly and test here, and it doesn't take as long as building a fab, but that takes a couple of years. And we don't have a lot of the board level assembly in the US. So, I mean, the harder part isn't really, we're building it where everyone's been focused on the fabs, but we have to build up the whole ecosystem, and that's going to be tough. You have to remember that the US is only going to be good if it's capital intensive, and some of these solutions still aren't completely automated at this point in time. So getting that, I think the back-end assembly and test, getting the board level and getting the system level is going to be increasingly challenging.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Interesting. Yeah. And by the way, I just wanted to give Intel a little bit of love, because they're making these accomplishments, and it gets overshadowed by some of the headlines out there, like you know, a lot of the NVIDIA investments that are happening, OpenAI investments and such. I mean, did the AMD OpenAI thing happen?
The AMD thing is happening supposedly. Yes, where AMD is going to give up shares for some of the capacity,
right?
10%. But there's also the fact that we've had two major announcements, or several major announcements. I think there's a total of 9 facilities for the Department of Energy that are going to be using NVIDIA and AMD accelerators. And Intel kind of got shut out of that one this round.
Yeah. And then,
I would say that,
go ahead.
I'm sorry, I would say that if you look at NVIDIA's latest version of their AI roadmap, they seem to have caught the wave. They're trying to catch the wave for complex inference processing, using inexpensive memory, not HBM. It kind of sounds like the direction that NVIDIA is going with the CPX. So they've deselected training completely. So I'm not sure smart, because the modern version of inference requires a little continual training as the models learn. You don't want to throw that away, so you don't want to have to shift it all over to a separate set of hardware and shift it back. That's why the Google TPU can do training. They say it's inference first, but it's not inference only. So that may be a mistake. But at least Intel does have a clear target market and have deselected markets for their AI roadmap.
Well, and Intel has also announced that they're going to be coming out with one of those decode processors too. I think it's called Crystal Lake or something like that.
Lake, yeah.
Crystal Lake. So they're going to have that. The only major vendor we haven't seen kind of that decode specific processor is AMD so far.
Yeah.
Yeah. And what was I going to say? Yeah, one of the things that I think is also interesting is some of these investments that have been happening with, like NVIDIA investing in Nokia. Then you have Synopsys. That one I think is really, I'd love to get your the reactions from both of you gentlemen on that one, because there was a lot of stuff in the news cycle about it, but I thought there was some goofy stuff being opined about it. So let's ask the experts. Who wants to?
NVIDIA's $2 billion investment in Synopsys to support advanced AI for future chips, future chip designs.
Yeah.
That's going to be interesting. The big three, which are Siemens, Cadence, and Synopsys, have all invested in AI and adding AI into their tools. But so far, a lot of the semiconductors, especially for the really detailed processes like place and route, haven't adopted those AI capabilities because they don't really trust them. Even NVIDIA, said that, I guess it was last year, 2024 at Hot Chips. It'll be interesting. Obviously Synopsys is gearing up significantly. They acquired Ansys. And they're continuing to invest in their own tools and AI capabilities. So why NVIDIA make the investment in one of those three when those tools span the whole process from chip design to system design? It's an interesting one.
Well, I can imagine that Cadence called up Jensen as soon as it was announced and say,
what about us?
Let's talk about what you can invest in us for. What do you not get from Synopsys that you could get from Cadence? So I don't think we've seen the last chapter of that book.
I would agree. I think NVIDIA more than anything is trying to, and they've done this. We've seen this with every new product that they've come out with and every investment, co-package optics, the DPU, on and on and on. They continue to look at where the bottlenecks are in building future platforms. The only place they really haven't gone, well, I guess you can say they have. I was going to say they haven't gone into memory, but they kind of have with KV cache. So they continue to look for those bottlenecks throughout the industry, and I think that's a key part of it. And I think co-package optics is a good example of that.
Yeah. Okay. Any thoughts on the Nokia thing, or you guys don't care about?
That's all about 6G, right? I mean, they're having a
Yeah.
go-to-market partner
Yeah.
with Nokia for 6G base
Mhm.
stations. So makes total sense.
No, I think the 6G effort really kicked off right after Mobile World Congress this year with the first workshops, focusing on defining what the 6G standard's going to be. So I think everyone's kind of going to be gearing up, and I think we're going to hear a lot more about that, a lot more partnerships, a lot more investments. It's still, 3-4 years away at best, but we're going to see a lot more coming out about 6G, especially over the next 2 years.
Yeah, I mean, I guess for me, the real question is, what do they do with ReefShark? Do they go all in with NVIDIA? Like one of the things Ronnie and Soma, emphasize quite a bit, and this is something that Ronnie mentioned to me, when we were at GTC earlier this year, is a homogeneous AI RAN infrastructure. So what does that mean? Is that all NVIDIA GPUs and NVIDIA systems, or is ReefShark going to be part of that? I guess that's like the big question: is what is Nokia's gameplay here? Are they just going to become a NVIDIA OEM like a lot of the the AI infrastructure OEMs right now? I mean, predominantly they're rolling out NVIDIA racks.
I think there's a bigger question there, and we already know that you can benefit using AI in just about any application. You use it for the base station for handling the traffic. You can use it in the antenna array to handle beamforming and everything else. There's thousands of applications within the network that you can use AI. The real question is what is the end play for the carriers in this in AI? And there's been a big push, especially by NVIDIA, to try to convince the carriers that, listen, you can become that AI provider, you can be that data center provider. That hasn't always worked out for the carriers in the past. They don't. It kind of goes against their business model. So and let's face it, Open RAN hasn't really changed the market significantly. It hasn't really burned down the doors in terms of driving change in the market. So the real question is how does the business model change as we go to 6G? And does that change who the key service providers are? I don't know that it does. We'll have to wait and see.
Yeah.
But,
And
you guys, any thoughts?
Yeah, I think there's a conflation of the silicon debate with the neocloud versus or plus, mobile network business debate, right? And I think commingling those two and just confusing the viability discussion is what's really bringing that whole thing down. And I don't think a lot of operators, even though they sign up for AI RAN Alliance, they're not really bought into a lot of the aspirational vision. I think they're really looking at AI for the RAN. How do you introduce those efficiencies? Look at where the application of AI balances with performance improvement, with the cost of intelligence in mind, right? Because AI doesn't come for free, right? That intelligence isn't realized without power, without additional cost in terms of chip design and systems design. These all have to be factored in as you look at the ROI for placing intelligence across the RAN or across the network. And so those are the big question marks as the industry tries to figure out, well, okay, where does AI fit and how much of it do we have to use? But one thing I'm pretty sure of, a lot of these aspirational visions are not going to play out. And, much in the same way that the aspirational visions of multi-vendor Open RAN, that didn't play out, right? So you have to examine things at a couple levels deeper than just the press releases and the marketing spiel. So yeah.
It really comes down to business models, and you have to understand the business model and where it makes sense and where it doesn't make sense.
Yeah. Hey, Karl, Google Ironwood.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about that, because there was a huge stink about that over the last couple of weeks, right?
Yeah, well, we talked about it earlier.
Google is ahead in AI, and OpenAI is like being left in the dust.
If you think about it, I mean, Google has more AI PhDs than pretty much the rest of the industry combined. These guys are really smart, and they've taken a very rational approach. Let's make sure this thing works. They've got 6 generations behind them and lots of variations on those, not only at the silicon level, but at the system level.
Yeah.
And especially in memory sharing. You can share memory across high bandwidth memory across 9216 or 64, 9216 TPUs within a pod. That's a phenomenal amount of memory, very low latency, massive bandwidth. When they first came out with some more data on Ironwood, I wrote an article about it on Forbes, and I said, Google's turning AI up to 11. And I told some of my friends in the industry that you need to look at these guys. You need to be aware of what they're doing. And some of these guys, they don't have competitive analysis teams because they think the only thing they compete with is the speed of light.
Yeah.
And in fact, they're going to compete now with a pretty powerful force. If Google rolls out a wider distribution network, which will allow them to have more fungible assets across the hyperscalers are not beholden to NVIDIA because of investments NVIDIA wisely made to keep them beholden to NVIDIA. You're going to see a big shift. I don't think this material, as I mentioned earlier, I don't think this material hurts NVIDIA. I do think it might material hurt AMD. So AMD's kind of gone from clear second place to I won't say distant, but a third place player. Because they haven't focused enough on systems. Now they bought ZT Systems that should help them get the expertise they need for the design work. Not that they're going to sell boxes, but they'll design the boxes, they'll design the racks, they'll design the multi-racks. But the Passando acquisition has not produced an NVLink class competitor. That's one of the reasons you saw this week Amazon AWS announced that they will use NVLink, not exclusively. They'll also use a UA link, but that's kind of helps reinforce their old image as the Switzerland of semiconductor technology. I think that was a wise move on their part. But back to the really emphasis of the question is, what's this Google TPU? You're going to see a lot of innovation come out of Google. It will be widely available, not just within the Google Cloud. And more importantly, they will learn a lot from their new clients who did not want to use TPU, that now do want to use TPU because they don't have to go to Google Cloud. From a business strategy standpoint, this also allows Google to have a direct hardware sales channel that they're going to leverage Broadcom to build, and at the same time reinforce their cloud. So what they're saying to people is, here's a truckload full of hardware. They're saying, here's 2 truckloads full of hardware, and I'll have 3 truckloads reserved for you back in the cloud if you need more capacity. And of course, everybody needs more capacity. So in a supply constrained environment, I think Google's strategy is just brilliant. And a lot of us have been pounding the table for a long time. Come on, Google, ship these things outside your walled garden. And now I think they definitely are.
Yeah. I mean, I'm still on the fence of whether or not they really want to start a hardware business for themselves. I guess, my view is that they're going to probably stick with delivering their their AI, that capacity via a EOS kind of, or modality. Because
you think Anthropic's just a one-off?
But they could
no,
also
arrangement because of the scale of the buy, right? I mean, they split it too, right? It's like 600,
600, 400.
yeah, 600, 400. But then there's also risk. You want to, going back to neocloud offload, that whole dynamic that we're seeing, where like most famously Microsoft, instead of building out the shells that they had for their own neo cloud, they've offloaded to CoreWeave, right? And that's a risk play. And Satya Nadella, even on a number of podcasts, has stated that he doesn't want to hold these things, and that he wants build out an entire data center like 100 gigawatts in one generation, right? And so there's this offload strategy that not just Microsoft but others have been playing. So for Google, it might be a prudent approach given the scale of what it looks like they have in terms of an arrangement with Anthropic. That's my view. Anyways, I could be wrong. So,
Jim, do you have any perspective on this?
I will offer a different viewpoint there, that I think that they still could license it, just like they've done with the TPU for embedded applications, or the NPU. They could license it through Broadcom. Actually have Broadcom sell the chips and just license the technology from Google. So I think that we will see the TPU in different forms. The question really is does it really come from Google, or does it end up coming from somebody else? And I'm still kind of surprised that we're going to see, Google actually selling TPUs to Anthropic, or providing TPUs to Anthropic, but we'll see what happens. I think that there's, Google isn't really good in the hardware business. At least they haven't been on the consumer side. So we'll see how it plays out.
Yeah, no, this has been a good piece of our bit in our conversation here, and Karl, thanks for sharing your insights. It's just now when we talk about the business aspect of it, it's just, I think we might have divergent views here. We do have divergent views, and I think that's cool. I think it's this is the stuff that we wanted to happen, right, Karl? When we started this thing, we wanted that debate. So yeah. Hey, the other thing that happened, Qualcomm has their own, right? They have their own AI infrastructure, or their own racks now, with the introduction of
AI 250 and AI
200 and 250. Yeah.
The real shift is going to happen with AI 250. AI 200 gets them into the data center. AI 250 makes them hard to beat. It is radical new near memory architecture for AI,
and supposedly a new memory architecture. Yeah,
I think we're going to see more innovations in the memory architectures. Not more innovations, but more significant TCO impacting innovations in the memory architectures, especially for inference, than we will see in compute. A flop's a flop.
Yeah, memory and storage. That whole data plane is becoming critical. Matter of fact, we didn't even talk about it, but obviously Samsung, SK Hynix, and Micron are really focused on it. They've all dropped their DDR4 product lines, leaving anybody using that DDR4 technology in a lurch right now. Prices have just skyrocketed on DDR4 this year. And Micron just announced this week that they're dropping their Crucial product brand, which is their consumer product brand, starting in February, to focus really on that high margin, high need for HBM memory in the data center.
Once you get those high margins, it's hard to let go. You want to build more business that way, and if they're supply constrained, and they are,
well, it also plays to their strength in the fact that all of their storage and memory products have 20% or more advantages in power efficiency over their competition. So Micron's in a very good position. I mean, the only limitation is they don't have the same capacity that Samsung and SK Hynix, and they're working on that upstate New York as well as other facilities in Japan, bringing more capacity online. But they competitively, they've got their own leading edge process technology. They've got their architecture advantage. They're actually in a very good spot. If they had the capacity, they'd be capturing a lot more of the market, I think.
Yeah, I think so. I've been a big fan of their technology for several years. It's good to see them finally getting their due.
Yeah.
Yes.
Wonderful. So we could probably go on and on and on and on, but we're not, because we got to wrap it up here. But hey, gentlemen, it's great catching up. I'm glad we're able to do this. And this is like, it's great to recap basically 3 months from September, October, November, and hopefully we'll have a chance to just recap the whole year if our holiday plans aren't way too busy, which I'm sure they will be, but hopefully we'll be able to convene again before the end of the year, or at least early next year, to recap stuff. Karl, I gotta read your article on your predictions.
Yeah, it's on Forbes with my 10 AI predictions. I was going to call it Cambrian AI predictions. Forbes said, no, you got to call it yours. I'm fine.
You beat me to the punch, Karl, because I still have to get mine out there.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. So, hey, on that note, thanks, gentlemen. Happy holidays. I'm sorry I'm not going to be next week at Marvell, but I will let you know.
My younger twin will be there, so you can join him.
Yeah. You're essentially going to be there. At least some of your DNA will be there, right? Anyway, so everyone, please make sure to reach out and follow Karl Freund and Cambrian AI Research at www.cambrianai.com, right? Did I get a hyphen AI.com? So once again, www.cambrian-ai.com. And he's on Substack as well as Forbes, as he just mentioned. And also reach out to Jim McGregor and Tirius Research at www.tiriusresearch.com. Follow him. He's quite a funny guy, very informative. So that's a nice balance of fun and education on all things semiconductor. And of course, Karl is just madly in love with all this AI stuff and gigantic chips and racks and data centers. And please remember to subscribe to our podcast, which will be featured on the Next Curve YouTube channel. We're on Buzzsprout. And if you go check us out there, you can pick us up on your favorite podcast platforms, and also subscribe to the Next Curve research portal at www.next-curve.com, as well as on Substack for the tech and industry insights that matter. And we'll see you hopefully in a month to recap December and make our predictions for 2026. So, gentlemen, thank you.
Happy holidays, everybody. Thanks.
Take care, guys.